Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we welcome you all for our weekly Krishna book reading. Before we get started, let's offer the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. That's it. Hare Krishna. Let's sing the beautiful song of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna 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 He Krishna 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 He Krishna 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 Raksha Mam Krishna 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 Pahi Mam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Raksha Mam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahi Mam. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki Jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Krishna Book ki Jai, Jai Nittai Gaur Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Let's continue our reading with the Krishna book. We are in page 27 of this edition of Krishna book. We are about to start the prayers by the demigods to Krishna as he was in the womb of Devaki. So last week we discussed how Kamsa, the thought process of Kamsa, about how he made different considerations that he should not be killing, even though he realized just by looking at the effulgent face of Mother Devaki, he could understand that the Supreme Lord had taken shelter of her womb. He is inside the womb and in fact giving her shelter. And he made a lot of considerations. One is she is under his shelter, so he is not supposed to kill her. Second is she is a woman who is supposed to be protected. On top of that, she is pregnant also. So he was deliberating on all of these facts that a pregnant woman is supposed to be taken care, what to speak of being harmed by. So he thought all of this would actually make such a big blot in his reputation. So taking into consideration all these factors, Kamsa decided, anyway, it's the Supreme Lord after all. Let me just wait for him to appear. Then he thought he could actually plan for the next course of action. Thinking this way, Kamsa decided to play, or rather decided to wait until the Supreme Lord appears. So we saw that this is towards end of page 27. Kamsa finally decided not to kill Devaki right away, but to wait for the inevitable future. But his mind became absorbed in animosity against the personality of Godhead. Narada Muni, in his instruction to Yudhishthir Maharaj, he gives examples of different devotees, how they engaged their mind in thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how each one of them, they are related in a different emotion, in a different relationship with the Supreme Lord, and how that helped them remembering the Supreme Lord all the time. If we see the instruction of the Shastras, even though the Shastras have millions of instruction, there's one instruction which is considered to be the essence of all instruction, or the father of all the instruction, master of all the instructions. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vishmartavya najatuchit, sarve vidhi nishedyasyur, yetayor eva kinkara. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Every other rule of the Shastras is supposed to be subservient to this one rule, which is considered as the master of all rules, which is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Krishna also tells to Arjuna, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore, Arjuna, always think of me. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara idyacha. Always think of me, and in that remembrance, engaged in your duty to fight the war. That's what Krishna tells to Arjuna. So this instruction is common for all of us. And every rule, every regulation that we actually follow in our Krishna conscious path is meant to bring about that remembrance of Krishna. So that's what we are supposed to do. So now Narada Muni, he gives this example. Gopya kamad, bayad kamso, dveshya chaidadya antrapa, sambandad vrishnya, snehad yuyam bhaktyad vayam vibho, he says. He says, Gopya kamad. The gopis, they were engaged in remembering Krishna 24/7, and in that way they performed the bhakti. How did they actually remember? In what mellow, in what rasa did they remember the Supreme Lord? Gopya kamad, in their desire. Just like how a young boy and a girl would get attracted. Yuvatinam yata yuni, yunam cha yuvatam yata, manobhiramate tatmat, manome ramatam tvai. Rupa Goswami says, just like how a young boy and a girl get attracted naturally, similarly, the gopis also, they get attracted to Krishna. Their love was so pure in Madhurya Rasa, Gopya Kamad. Just like how that natural attraction will be there, instant attraction, without any external stimulus. They don't need to know anything about Krishna. In fact, that's the last thing they want to know about Krishna, about his position. They didn't care anything. All they are worried about is their love for Krishna. So Gopya Kamad, in that simple Madhurya Rasa, as simple village cowherd girls, they were able to perform their bhakti for Krishna. They were related to Krishna. Gopya Kamad Bayad Kamsa. Kamsa, he was remembering Krishna all the time, 24/7, not out of love like the gopis, but Bayad Kamsa, out of fear. And if you remember, Narada Muni had already come and informed Kamsa about how in his previous birth as Kalanemi, he was killed by Vishnu himself after the Samudramandhan Leela. So that added more fuel to the fear. So Kamsa was even more scared now. Bayad Kamsa, out of fear he is remembering the Supreme Lord 24/7. And later on you'll actually see, whenever he was seated, eating something, drinking something, lying down, even if he sees anything, everything was remembering Krishna. So much so, Narada Muni later on he says, I wish I could remember Krishna like how Kamsa did. Of course, Kamsa was thinking about the Supreme Lord unfavorably, but Narada Muni is Anukulya Bhakti. He is our Acharya. So, nevertheless, Narada Muni in his humble position, he actually says, I wish I could remember Krishna like that. So, Bayad Kamsa, Gopya Kamad, Bayad Kamsa, Dveshya, Chaidade, Andrapa. All the different demons like Dandavakra, Shishupal, everyone, they were remembering Krishna out of envy. All the time they were so envious of somebody. If someone is envious of someone, anything that reminds them makes them feel even more envious, and in that envy they are connected with the Supreme Lord. So same way with all these demons who were there prevalent in that time of Krishna's appearance, all of them, they were remembering Krishna that way, Dveshya, out of envy. Sambandad Vrishnaya, all the Vrishnis, people in the Yadu dynasty, they were all devotees of Krishna, and they were thinking about Krishna as their own relative, Sambandad. So that's as their own relative, just like how you may remember your uncle, cousin, everyone, like that. The Yadus, they were remembering, the Vrishnis were remembering the Supreme Lord like that. Sambandad Vrishnya Snehad Yuyam. And Narada Muni tells this to Yudhishthir Maharaj, that you are related to Supreme Lord Snehad, like a friend. It mentioned how Krishna was feeling so much friendly affection for Pandavas. You will see. Even Krishna actually says why he actually chose Arjuna to give this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, because you are my devotee and you are my friend. Bhaktoshi me shakacheti rahasyam hiyatadutam. So you will see Krishna actually says you are my bhakta and you are my friend. So that's the qualification we need to have to understand instructions about Krishna. We may not be Krishna may not directly confirm, sending us SMS, you are my friend, in Facebook people send. It's not like that. But we need to at least have that friendly disposition towards Krishna. If we accept Krishna with the best possible emotion that we could muster from within ourselves, Krishna will happily reciprocate. That's why he's called as Achyuta, one who never fails in anyone's reciprocation. And you will find so many pastimes, how even Sakshi Gopal, for example, he walked all the way from Vrindavan to Vidyanagar in order to simply bear witness to a case between two Brahmanas, you will see. So many instances you will find in Govinda Ghosh's pastime. Gopinathji deity, he himself goes and he performed the final rites actually. So you will come across so many beautiful instances where the Supreme Lord, even in his Archa Vigraha form, he reciprocates with Kirchor Gopinath, for example, with Madhavendra Puri, how he stole the sweet rice and hid behind his back to give it to Madhavendra Puri. So many personal reciprocation Krishna does. So Krishna is Achyuta, so Krishna never fails in reciprocating. He is infallible. He never fails in reciprocating with his devotees. So Gopya Kamad Bayad Kamsha Dvesha Chaitandriya Nipa Sambandhad Vrishnaya Snehad Yuyam. As a friend, Krishna is dealing with all the Pandavas. Bhaktyad Vayam Vibho. And Narada Muni says, humble devotees like us, he puts himself in a very lower position and he tells to Yudhishthir Maharaj, we are related to Krishna by bhakti, by performing these rules and regulations, sadhana bhakti, we are related to Krishna. Like that, Narada Muni takes a very humble position, even though he is in a very, very elevated status. Prabhupada says, Vaishnava is never proud. Vaishnava always thinks that he or she has never attained Krishna. Prabhupada says the Goswamis, they always sing, Hey Raj, Vraja, Devike Chalalite, where are you? Where is Srimati Radharani? Oh Radha, oh Govinda, oh Gopis, where are you? Like that. So Prabhupada says the mission of Goswamis is never complete. They never say that we have attained Krishna. That's not the mood of the Goswamis. And Prabhupada says one should never become proud that one has attained Krishna, because we can never attain Krishna by our choice. On the other hand, if Krishna likes to give himself out of his own compassion to his devotees, yes, then we can consider ourselves fortunate. So in this way, each of the different devotees, they are related to Krishna. So here, but in his mind is absorbed in animosity against the personality of Godhead. That is out of fear. He patiently, this is again page 27, he patiently waited for the delivery of the child, expecting to kill him, as he had done previously with the other babies of Devaki. If you remember, the first 6 babies of Devaki, Kamsa has ruthlessly, mercilessly killed already. So he is hoping, and 7th child, who was Balaram, Sankarshan, according to general opinion of the people in that area, they thought Devaki had a miscarriage. But we know how Yogamaya, she transferred Balaram from the womb of Devaki to that of Rohini Mata in Vrindavan. So Kamsa was thinking, just like how I waited and killed as soon as the first 6 babies were born, one after the other. So similarly, I'll wait for this 8th child. As soon as he is born, I will kill. So for the temporary moment, he decided to spare the life of Devaki, thus being merged in the ocean of animosity against the personality of Godhead. Animosity means hatred. That fear also comes out of hatred. Thus being merged in the ocean of animosity against the personality of Godhead, he began to think of Krishna, how Vishnu, listen to this, while sitting, while sleeping, while walking, while eating, while working, in all the situations of life. So that's what we also want to do. We also want to remember Krishna. So you can see how somebody, even in hatred, he could actually think of Krishna 24/7 during all this normal day-to-day activities, walking, sitting, eating, working. So even Kamsa is doing that. Actually, he's remembering Krishna during working also. However, it's not Anukul. It's not Anukulyana Krishna Anusilanam. It's Pratikul. Anukul means it's not in a favorable. Anukul means to think of Krishna in a favorable way. How we can be the object of pleasure for Krishna. How we can offer everything in the service of Krishna. That is Anukul. But Kamsa is not thinking in an Anukul way. He is not thinking in a favorable way. Rather, out of animosity, out of hatred and fear, he is thinking about the Lord. In all the situations of his life, his mind became so absorbed with the thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that indirectly he could see only Krishna or Vishnu around him. What a great benediction. Unfortunately, although his mind was so absorbed in the thought of Vishnu, he is not recognized as a devotee because he was thinking of Krishna as an enemy. The state of mind of a great devotee is also to be always absorbed in Krishna. But a devotee thinks of him favorably, not unfavorably. To think of Krishna favorably is Krishna consciousness. But to think of Krishna unfavorably is not Krishna consciousness. Nicely Prabhupada explains. So 28 page, we are continuing. At this time, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada and followed by many other demigods, invisibly appeared in the house of Kamsa. They began to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in select verses. That's why one of Krishna's name is Uttama Shloka, one who is glorified by choice poetry. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyastavair. It's mentioned in 12th canto. Vede Changa Padakrama Upanishader Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavasti Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogina. So it's mentioned each of the different demigods, they on the sages, rishis, everyone, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead using the different Vedic hymns, especially Samaveda, glorifying about the uncommon and unparalleled glory and the prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here also, as Uttama Shloka, Krishna, he deserves to be glorified in the best possible verses. Of course, we are all very tiny. We'll see in many instances where even the devotees, they pray to the Supreme Lord to give them the potency with which they can glorify. Even our Parampara Acharyas, you'll see Baladev Vidyabhushan. Baladev Vidyabhushan is disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So once there is some misunderstanding among some Vaishnavas and the Ramanandi Vaishnavas, they were actually telling that Gaudiya Vaishnavas cannot worship Radha Govindaji because they don't have any commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So telling this way, they rejected Gaudiya Vaishnava's attempt to come and offer service to Srimati Radharani and Shishi Govinda Deva. So when the news actually reached, when the king saw that Gaudiya Vaishnavas were being treated unfair, he sends the message to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur asking him to come and establish, either come himself or send somebody who is a worthy proponent or who is a capable proponent of Gaudiya Vaishnavism to come and establish the validity of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. So then you will see Baladev Vidyabhushan is being sent by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. When he comes to Jaipur at that time, he first goes and takes blessings from Shishi Radha Govindaji. He comes in front of Govindaji, he pays obeisances, and then he cries, offering tears actually, along with his prayers at the lotus feet of the Lord, asking him to please bless him. And then the Supreme Lord tells him that he would dictate the Bhashya or the commentary for that, and then he can write. That's how Govinda Bhashya came to be. Technically means that commentary that's dictated by Govinda Dev himself. So Baladev Vidyabhushan, you will see, he takes that and then he presents and then he establishes the supremacy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and how Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya also has a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. The reason why there was no commentary up until that point was simply because Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam was accepted as the natural commentary. This is how our Parampara Acharyas have taught. So nobody thought that there is a need to write a separate commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because Vedanta Sutra is also, there is originally Vedas and then Vedanta Sutra. All of them were written by Vyasadeva himself. So there was no need. And then Vyasadeva himself, as a natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra, he also wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So there was no separate need to write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra when Bhagavatam itself was accepted for so many years as the natural commentary. However, during this past time, when the need actually arose for writing a separate commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, Baladev Vidyabhushan, he comes and he prays to the Supreme Lord to give him the potency with which he can actually write, and he very solidly establishes the bona fide nature of our Sampradaya, Gaudiya, Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. So you will find that instance. You will see how Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, he goes in front of Madan Mohanji and then he prays to him and pays obeisances in front of the Lord, and the Supreme Lord, he then, as a way of blessing Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he drops his garland on him. So you will find many instances. Fourth canto, you will see Dhruva Maharaj. When he sees the Supreme Lord, he is just a 5-year-old boy, hasn't even gone to Gurukul fully yet. But he has already attained perfection, seeing the Supreme Lord face to face. But he doesn't know how to pray. Looking at his predicament, Prabhupada actually explains the Supreme Lord, he had a conch in his hand and he just touches on the head of Dhruva Maharaj. And then you will see Dhruva Maharaj then offering beautiful prayers. Sthana Bilashi Tapasi Stitoham Tvam Praptavan Deva Munindra Guhyam Kachan Vichinvan Api Divya Ratnam Swami Kritarthosmi Varam Nayacha. He says, to get even a momentary glimpse of you so hard, all the great sages, devas, they are all doing so much penance simply to take one moment darshan of you. That same Supreme Lord, you have come now. How stupid of me to have offered all this bhakti, offered these prayers with this ulterior motive, which is, I was just looking for broken piece of glass when I could have actually asked for this big mountain, big treasure house of diamond. So he tells him like that. So you will see in many instances when devotees, all they have is just desire. They want to serve the Supreme Lord in a certain way, but they may not have the means to serve the Supreme Lord. But if we simply go and offer the prayer to the Supreme Lord, my Lord, this is my desire and I'm sincerely trying. Let me sincerely try. Prabhupada says, to the extent we sincerely try, to that extent the Supreme Lord will bless us with whatever is needed in order to do a particular service for the Supreme Lord for his pleasure. Another example that's given in Srimad Bhagavatam is when you go to Mayapur, any place, even in Haridwar, anywhere, wherever you see Mother Ganga, of course, you will see different articles being offered, like they do Arati fully, Dupa, Deepa, Pushpa, Vastra, Argya, everything, Chamar, each one of the different items. But the best offering for Mother Ganga is obviously her own waters. So you will see sometimes Vaishnavas, they take the water of Ganga and then offer back to Ganga. That's the best. Nothing could actually be more pure than Mother Ganga. You want to offer something nice and pure for Mother Ganga, so you offer her waters back to her, like that. So everything that we have is simply the mercy of the Supreme Lord. If we develop any desire to serve the Supreme Lord in a certain way, we may not have the means, we may not have the resources, we may not have the skills, doesn't matter. If we sincerely, deep in the core of our heart, if we have sincerely cultivated bhakti to want to do certain service to the Lord will send help, the Lord will send support, and with that we'll be able to offer service to the Lord to our heart's content. So at this time, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada and followed by many other demigods, invisibly appeared in the house of Kamsa. They began to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in select verses, Uttama Shloka, which are very pleasing to the devotees and which award fulfillment of their desires. The first words they spoke acclaimed that the Lord is true to his vow. Satya Vritam Satya Param Tri Satyam Satyasya Yonim Nihitam Cha Satye Satyasya Satyam Rita Satya Netram Satyatmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapannaha. So one of the first word which they are saying is Satya Vritam. Satya Vrata, which means one who is true to his vow. Whatever vow the Supreme Lord takes, he will fulfill. And we see famous example, Bhishma Dev, and Krishna tells to Arjuna to proclaim to the whole world that my devotees never perish. And then Bhishmadev also actually takes the vow, today I will make the Lord to pick up the weapon and fight. Bhishmadev in his prayers, he offers that I want to remember that Krishna who gave up his vow simply to fulfill my own vow, like that he says. So here, Supreme Lord is, he is the first words they spoke, acclaimed that the Lord is true to his vow, Satyavrata. When Lord says something, it is absolute truth, past, present and future. That's why when the Supreme Lord says, Nachatasman Manusheshu Kaschin Mek Priyakritamaha Bhavita Nachame Tasmad Anya Priyataro Bhuvi. One who shares this supreme knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita to everyone, there is no servant in this world more dear to me than him, nor will there be one more dear even in future. So no other service gives us or gives the Supreme Lord as much pleasure, makes us dear to the Lord as much as sharing this knowledge with everyone. Book distribution is so important. Sharing this message is so important. Studying Prabhupada's books and giving out Srila Prabhupada's books, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, it's absolutely important because this is Satyavrata, Supreme Lord's true desire and Supreme Lord's promise. And when he said, there is no servant in this world more dear to me, means we can take it that no other service we can possibly do than sharing this knowledge with other people. That doesn't mean we all have to actually go to the streets and distribute books. Not everyone will be able to do, but there are so many other ways how we can share this knowledge. Okay, you can even talk to your friends about this knowledge. You can share this simple message with your relatives, with your friends, anyone and everyone. So there are different means how we can share this knowledge. Book distribution obviously is something which is very, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. Easiest way to do is book distribution. We are currently embarking on book distribution marathon. We started for this year already. 50th anniversary is coming. You will see the posters coming up soon. This is a great way how each one of us we can participate in this wonderful service of sharing this knowledge with everyone and thereby becoming very, very dear to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, because Supreme Lord is true to his vow, Satyavrata. That is his vow. Okay, I'll take one sentence before. The first words they spoke acclaimed that the Lord is true to his vow. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna descends to this material world just to protect the pious and destroy the impious. That is his vow. The demigods could understand that the Lord had taken his residence within the womb of Devaki to fulfill his vow, and they were very glad that the Lord was appearing in order to fulfill his mission. So the reason Prabhupada explains why they call him as Satyavrata is Supreme Lord is always protective of his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam. Whenever there is any disturbance for his devotees, he immediately wants to come and personally protect. Even though he doesn't have to, nevertheless he still wants to. He immediately comes. So the Supreme Lord is glorified as Satyavrata by the demigods. Then the demigods addressed the Lord as Satya Param, or the Supreme Absolute Truth. The very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, you will see Satyam Param Dimahi. There are many truths in this world. Satyam Param means that is the absolute truth. Nothing, that truth is unchangeable. Nobody changes that. Nobody competes with that. Okay, these days, some may say I'm the most powerful person. The other one may say, no, I am the most powerful person. So there's some challenge there. When first person claims in let's say certain demographics in certain area, it may be true for some time. For how long? Until his claim is challenged by one of his other competitors basically. But whenever Supreme Lord says anything, that becomes the absolute truth. Mata paratram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam shudre maniganaiva. There is no truth superior to me. Krishna says Mata paratram nanyat. There is no truth superior to me. Mata parat kinchidasti dhananjaya. Everything rests upon me as pearls. I provide everything, just like how we see a needle. Needle is actually supporting all the beads. If you see this Kantimala, likewise Shudre Maniganaiva, just like how the thread is actually supporting. It's not just each of these individual beads, they just stay together. They are not magnet. But it's the thread that is actually going through each one of them that's supporting these beads. So similarly, Krishna says he is supporting and pervading everything. There's no truth that is superior to him. In fact, everything rests on him as pearls are resting on this thread. Then the demigods address the Lord as Satyam Param, or the supreme absolute truth. Everyone is searching after the truth. That is the philosophical way of life. The demigods give information that the supreme absolute truth is Krishna. One who becomes fully Krishna conscious can attain the absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth because, unlike relative truth, he is truth in all three phases of eternal time: past, present, as well as future. Because Krishna was here even before time came into existence. Time is also one of the energy of the Lord. Kalosmi loka kshaikar pravrito. Krishna says. Krishna is saying Kalosmi. He is the time. That's why sometimes we were discussing this. When we think about managing time, we are actually managing the time of Krishna. Because the time is not ours. It's also one of the energy of Krishna. But Kala Asmi Aham, Krishna is saying, which means Krishna, when he says Kala Asmi, it means the time also belongs to Krishna. Time itself is Krishna also. So managing time means managing Krishna's time. But then if you take it more deeper, it's actually managing Krishna, which means managing Krishna's desire. How we are spending our time in fulfilling the desires of Krishna. That's how we understand the time management in Bhakti Yoga. So here, that is the philosophical way of life. The demigods give information that the supreme absolute truth is Krishna. One who becomes fully Krishna conscious can attain the absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth because, unlike relative truth, he is truth in all three phases of time: past, present, and future. Time is divided into past, present, and future. Krishna is truth always: past, present, and future. In the material world, everything is being controlled by supreme time in the course of past, present, and future. But before the creation, Krishna was existing. When there is creation, everything is resting in Krishna. And when this creation is finished, Krishna will remain. One of the Chatur Shlokes of Srimad Bhagavatam, Aham Evasham Evagre. Krishna says, I existed even before all the creation existed. And I am existing even during the maintenance. When after all the existence or all the creation gets annihilated, Krishna says, I will be the only one who remains. So, past, present, and the future, everything. Aham Adirhi Devanam. Krishna says, Maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Name vidu suragana. Prabhavam Name vidu suragana. Prabhavam na Maharishya. Aham Adirhi Devanam. Maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Krishna says, nobody knows my origin. Neither the host of demigods nor the sages, nobody knows my origin. Why? Aham Adirhi Devanam. I am the origin of all of them. Not only for the demigods, but also Maharishi, all the sages. Nobody knows Krishna's origin. Therefore, he is the absolute truth in all circumstances. If there is any truth within this material world, it emanates from the supreme truth, Krishna. If there is any opulence within this material world, the cause of opulence is Krishna. If there is any reputation within this material world, the cause of the reputation is Krishna. If there is any strength within this material world, the cause of such strength is Krishna. If there is any wisdom and education within this material world, the cause of such wisdom and education is Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the source of all relative truths. So this is the verse from Vishnu Purana. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashashriya jnana vairagyayostiva sannam bhaga itingana. The Supreme Lord or Bhagavan is that personality who has all these six opulences to the fullest and to an unlimited extent: beauty, strength, wealth, fame, knowledge, and renunciation. Now Prabhupada is quoting that verse to prove the point here that because Krishna is the only one who has all of this to an unlimited and to the fullest extent, anybody, if they come to this world, if they say I possess something, it means it has been borrowed by Supreme Lord, because this whole thing is Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. Krishna is the owner of everything that's here. So whatever strength which one claims to be possessing, that is borrowed. Because what's the proof for that? One person is not holding the strength forever. When they are young, they have a certain amount of strength. When they are hitting the peak of, they're bigger in the body, they possess perhaps the strength at its peak, at the maximum. But then as one grows old, the strength is already gone. What happened? the strength which one possessed for some time. Initially they had nothing. As a little child, nobody has much strength. But as they grow, they lift weights, build up certain strength. But then after some time, arthritis comes, the body dwindles. And when somebody grows old, now the strength is gone, completely gone. So Prabhupada is saying, which means the strength is actually borrowed from the Supreme Lord. Why? Because we ourselves are new entrants into this material world, and when we came, we had nothing. Temporarily, we had something which was already existing here, and that source is Krishna. So same way, Prabhupada is extending that to each one of the 6 opulences. If somebody may say actually beautiful, initially we can actually see when a person is born, and then as a person progresses, yes, at the prime of youth, one's beauty is said to be hitting its peak. But then as somebody go past the prime, then the body goes old. Prabhupada says that's why the beauty of the body comes from the soul. Whatever the beauty of the soul, that gets reflected in as the beauty of the body. And Prabhupada says, because how can we understand this? If a person is dead, the person may be the most beautiful person, voted as the most beautiful person in the world, for example. But as soon as the person dies, nobody actually sits there and celebrate the body. Wow, the body looks so good. Nobody. Everyone is scared. Some people even think this is ghost, and nobody wants to wait until it's cremated or buried. So Prabhupada says, as soon as the soul leaves, the beauty of the body goes away. Which means the source of the beauty of the body is from the soul. But Prabhupada says, where is the soul's beauty coming from? We were discussing the soul of the soul is Krishna himself. So Krishna is the original, most beautifulest of all. To borrow Shakespearean English, he is the most beautifulest of all personalities. That's why he's called Madan Mohan. Okay, that we can think about the different pastimes. How Krishna, he conquered Madan, and then he proved his supreme beauty, thereby getting this title Madan Mohan. But then Srimati Radharani is even more beautiful than Krishna. When Krishna looks at Srimati Radharani, then Krishna himself faints, it's mentioned. So Srimati Radharani is even more beautiful. Madan Mohana Mohini, it's called. She is called. So beauty, strength. Krishna, when he was just barely 7 years old, he lifted Govardhan hill. Needs no other proof. Beauty, strength, wealth. Krishna is called as Srinivas, one who is the husband of goddess of fortune. Who else other than Krishna can possess so much wealth? Beauty, strength, wealth, fame. Most famous person. We are still talking about Krishna. Krishna was always spoken. You look at the Vedic scriptures that are millions of years old, they talk about Krishna. You talk 2020, 2021, we are talking about Krishna. You take another 10,000, 20,000, another millions of years, Krishna will still be spoken. Most famous person. Beauty, strength, wealth, fame, knowledge. Needs no proof for Krishna's knowledge and the wisdom he is giving. We can read Gita and renunciation. We can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How Tyaktva Sudusteja Surepshita Rajya Lakshmi. One, that Supreme Lord who gave up Tyaktva Sudusteja, something which is not just Dusteja means to give up, Sudusteja means very difficult to give up. Sudusteja Surepshita. He gave up something which even demigods they find it hard to give up. What is that? Rajya, which is kingdom, wealth, Lakshmi, his own land, Praja also, everyone. And he just goes to forest. Tyaktva Sudusteja Surepshita Rajya Lakshmi Dharmista Aryavachasa Yadagad Aranyam. Aranyam means to go to the forest. He takes up sannyas. Krishna himself also, we will see how he gets the name even Ranachor, for example. When he gets the letter from Rukmini, immediately he gives up the battle and he just goes to meet Rukmini. Even though Krishna knew very well, somebody who is so knowledgeable, Krishna, how much he knows that his enemies are actually going to call him bad names, telling him as a coward. But Krishna is the only person who after stealing, he can still be glorified for stealing. After killing somebody, demon of Madhu, or rather enemy of demon of Madhu, Madhusudana, usually don't get glorified for, killing is a very heinous act. Nobody gets glorified for killing somebody. But Krishna gets. So Krishna gets away with everything. Last week we were discussing how Krishna goes to clear his name in that pastime, but then in the process he gets 2 new wives also. So Krishna gets glorified for anything and everything. That is Krishna. So here Krishna, when he leaves the battlefield, devotees, they go into ecstasy when they remember how much he loves his devotees. He doesn't care about his name. So that is Krishna. So here we see the source of all of these different opulences, beauty, strength, wealth, fame, knowledge and renunciation, they all come from Krishna. And anybody who is in this world who is claiming to possess any of these, one of these, two of these, more of this, or even all of this to a certain extent, all of that is borrowed. So Prabhupada is saying the cause of all causes is always Krishna only, including the cause of all these opulences. This material world is composed of 5 principal elements. Earth, this is page 29. Earth, water, fire, air and ether, and all such elements are emanations from Krishna. Bhumir apo nalavayu gammano buddhirevacha ahankaram ityame binna prakriti rastada. Krishna says, Bhumi, earth, water, fire, air, ether, all of these constitute my binna prakriti rastada. Mind, intelligence, ego, everything, they are separated energies from Krishna. Binna means separated. Binna prakriti means separated energies of Krishna. Prabhupada gives a beautiful analogy. If you read perfect question, perfect answer, Prabhupada gives this analogy of milk. Prabhupada says there is cow. When you take milk from the cow, milk is also energy of the cow. And then one of his disciples brings during this conversation, which Prabhupada is having with the Brahmatirtha Prabhu, Bob Cohen, at the time when the glass of milk is brought in front of Prabhupada, Prabhupada picks up the glass of milk and Prabhupada says, this one, you see, this is milk, this is separated energy of the cow. So it originally was with the cow, but it is separated energy. So likewise, Krishna says, all of this is his divine energy only, but separated energy means we should not think that now Krishna is at loss. Not like that. Krishna can give unlimited earth, water, fire, air, ether. Separated energy should be understood more in the context of that this is material energy. It's not spiritual energy, so to speak. Okay, earth, water, fire, air, ether, all such elements are emanations from Krishna. The very definition of God, last week I was asked this question in one class, in one youth class. What is the origin of Krishna? Prabhupada in one room conversation, Prabhupada says, he asks, you go to each and every person in this whole world and keep asking them, who is your father? And that person says, he is my father. You go to that person, go and ask, who is your father? Likewise, you keep on tracing back in the family genealogical table. Prabhupada says, you keep on asking this question. When you come across a person who says, I have no father, in fact, I am the father, Aham Bija Pradapita, I am the father of everyone, Prabhupada says, that is Krishna. That is one statement which only Krishna can say, nobody else can say. So here also we see that Krishna, he is the origin of everything. Janmadi asya yataha. The definition of God is he from whom everything emanates. Prabhupada writes it. It's there in Srimad Bhagavatam, very first verse itself. Janmadi asya yataha. Very easy to understand. He from whom everything emanates. Janmadi means taking birth. From he from whom yataha, from whom everything is coming out, emanating. That is Supreme Lord. The material scientists accept these 5 primary elements as the cause of the material manifestation. But the elements in their gross and subtle states are produced by Krishna. The living entities who are working within this material world are the products of his marginal potency. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that the whole manifestation is a combination of 2 kinds of energies of Krishna, the superior energy and the inferior energy. The living entities are the superior energy and the dead material elements are his inferior energy. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. So everything is inside Krishna, superior energy as well as inferior energy. Aparayam itastonyam prakritim vidhi me param, Prabhupada says. Besides these 8 elements, there is another aparayam itastonyam prakritim vidhi me param. There is another superior energy of mind, which is the marginal potency. Krishna is talking about us. Krishna is talking about the spiritual energy. So Prabhupada says the material energy is inferior energy and the marginal soul, which is, or the marginal potency, which is Jivatma, which is the soul, that is the superior energy of the Lord. Now one question that can easily come to us is, if Maya or the material energy of the Lord, personification of the material energy of the Lord, technically if the material energy is inferior, and the soul, which is the marginal potency of the Lord, is superior energy, how can the soul come under the illusion of material energy? In one sense, it looks like it is contradicting what is given in the Shastra. According to Shastra, material energy is inferior, spiritual energy, which is the soul, is superior. But how can, in this material world, we see the material energy has overcome us? When we say somebody has fallen into illusion, which is all of us, how can this happen? How can superior energy overcome an inferior energy? This question was asked by Vidura to Maitreya, and you will see this question being answered so beautifully that generally it's not possible. In fact, it's very astonishing how it can happen. However, by arrangement of Krishna, it is possible. It is possible to reverse its nature, wherein the material energy, which is technically inferior, by the arrangement of Krishna can overpower, can become superior, and the marginal energy, which is the jiva, which is technically superior, can become inferior because it's marginal. Technically, it can go either way. It can either go fully spiritual or it can be overcome by this illusory energy. That's how Bhagavatam explains about that point. So the living entities are the superior energy and the dead material elements are its inferior energy normally. But when we are under illusion, technically this change is reversed. Even though in normal circumstance it's not possible, but by the arrangement of Krishna, anything is possible. In its dormant stage, everything remains in Krishna. The demigods continue to offer their respectful prayers. Page 29 again. The demigods continued to offer their respectful prayers unto the supreme form of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, by analytical study of the material manifestation. What is this material manifestation? It is just like a tree. A tree stands on the ground. Similarly, the tree of the material manifestation is standing on the ground of material nature. This material manifestation is compared to a tree because a tree is ultimately cut off in due course of time. A tree is called vriksha. Vriksha means that thing which will be ultimately cut off. Therefore, this tree of material manifestation cannot be accepted as the ultimate truth because it is influenced by time. Prabhupada is using logic here. So you'll see material manifestation is considered to be a tree and the material nature is considered to be the ground. So from unmanifest material nature sprouts one tree which is manifest, but Prabhupada says it is called vriksha. Vriksha means that which will be cut off at some point of time, which means this manifestation is temporary. This material world is real but temporary. That's where you'll see Mayavad philosophy. It's contradicting with that illogical argument, saying this material world is unreal. It is actually real. We can see everything around. It is real. What is unreal? It is real, but it is temporary. Prabhupada says Gaudiya Vaishnavism, for that matter, even any Vaishnava philosophy, bona fide Vaishnava philosophy will actually teach us that this material world is not unreal. Jagat Mithya, they say. Brahman Satya, Jagat Mithya. That's what Mayavad philosophy says. But Prabhupada says there is a difference between calling something unreal and calling something as temporary. Prabhupada says this material world is not unreal. This is real, but it has a shelf life, temporary. Which means Krishna says, Maya dakshena prakriti suyatheta characharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. Under my direction, this material manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it is there, but temporarily it's manifested and then goes to the ground. So the ground is there, but the manifestation, the tree sprouting out of the ground comes sometime and then it's getting cut off sometime, which means it's annihilated again after some time. But Krishna's body is eternal. He existed before the material manifestation. He is existing when the material manifestation is continuing, and when it will be dissolved, he will continue to exist. Therefore, only Krishna can be accepted as the absolute truth. The Katha Upanishad also cites this example of the tree of material manifestation standing on the ground of material nature. This tree has two kinds of fruits, distress and happiness. Those who are living in the tree of the body are just like two birds. One bird is the localized aspect of Krishna, known as Paramatma, and the other bird is the living entity. The living entity is eating the fruits of this material manifestation. Sometimes he eats the fruits of happiness, and sometimes he eats the fruit of distress. But the other bird is not interested in eating the fruit of distress or happiness because he is self-satisfied. So this is the verse from Katha Upanishad where Prabhupada explains that if you take this whole manifestation as a tree, then there are two birds in this tree and there are two types of fruits. One bird is Jivatma, which is us, and the second one is Paramatma. The Jivatma is busy jumping from one branch to the other, trying to taste these different fruits of happiness and distress. Just like it changes body, it keeps on changing, and then it keeps on eating fruits from the tree. Sometimes it's happiness and sometimes it's distress. However, the second tree, which is Paramatma, he is not at all interested in eating the fruits. Why? Because he is Atmaram, self-satisfied. He is there simply to assist the journey of the tiny little Jiva, which is us. So inside us there is Jivatma, which is ourselves, and there is Paramatma. Paramatma is there simply to guide us, simply to give us shelter. Upadrishta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purusha Para. It's given Upadrishta Anumanta. It allows and it gives permission. Paramatma, he just allows us to follow our desires. Upadrishta and Anumanta, he gives permission also. So by doing this, he is assisting us. No matter how many lifetimes we go, Paramatma will always be with us, will always be following us all the time, simply to give us guidance. Paramatma, it's mentioned, he doesn't even sit down when he is in our body. He doesn't even sleep. If you talk about a friend who is with us, no matter how many lifetimes we take, we can even be a small tiny little worm in a drainage, Paramatma will still be in that body. So Krishna alone can be our true friend. No one else can possibly be our true friend ever. It's impossible. All the time he will be there, and until we finish this journey in this material world across so many different living species, we were discussing 8.4 million species. So many different species we may take according to our karma. How many ever times we take birth, Paramatma will never forsake us. He'll always be with us, and he'll make sure that finally we go back to the spiritual world. So that is Paramatma. So the second bird is Paramatma. The Katha Upanishad states that one bird on the tree of the body is eating the fruits, and the other bird is simply witnessing. That's what he is doing. Upadrishta Hanumantacha. He just sees what we are actually doing, observing, and then he is also permitting us. Okay, so he is observing what we are doing, and he is allowing us, he is permitting us. So that's Upadrishta Hanumanta. So the roots of this tree extend in three directions. This means that the root of the tree is the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just as the tree's root expands, so by association of the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, one expands his duration of material existence. The tastes of the fruits are of four kinds: religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and ultimately liberation. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. They are the four different tastes of these fruits. So there are two types of fruits. One is happiness and the second is distress. But these fruits can actually taste in four different ways. According to the different associations in the three modes of material nature, the living entities are tasting different kinds of religiosity, different kinds of economic development, different kinds of sense gratification, and different kinds of liberation. Practically, all material work is performed in ignorance. But because there are three qualities, sometimes the quality of ignorance is covered with goodness or passion. All materialistic work, Prabhupada says, they are all done in ignorance. Ignorance of who we are, ignorance of who Krishna is, ignorance of what is good for us and what is liberating us and what is binding us. So anything and everything by default, if somebody does without taking shelter of the scriptures, 100% it's in mode of ignorance, but mixed with a little goodness and passion. The taste of these material fruits is accepted through the five senses. So for any activity we have to actually do, So if you remember the chariot example that is given in Bhagavad Gita, coming from Upanishad, so the five senses are like the horses of the chariot. The reins or the rope that is used to control the horses, that is the mind. The driver of the chariot is intelligence. The chariot itself is the body, and the passenger of the chariot, that's the soul. Now, in our interaction, we are spirit souls, but our interaction with this gross material world happens through these five senses only. Any activity that you do, could be eating, okay, sense of touch is involved, sense of seeing is involved, sight is involved, sense of taste is also involved. So any activity, or you watch something, you watch a movie, sense of eyes is involved, sense of sight rather. So that sense is involved. So any activity that you actually do, jnanendriya, karmendriya, it's given. The knowledge acquiring senses, they are the knowledge acquiring senses actually. So each one of these different senses, they are interacting with this different sense object. So this material body, the five sense organs through which knowledge is acquired, are subject to six kinds of whips: lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger and thirst. So these are the six kinds of whips that is attacking these five sense organs. What are they? Lamentation, illusion, infirmity, death, hunger, thirst. This material body or material manifestation is covered by 7 layers: skin, flesh, bone, marrow, blood. Skin, flesh, blood, marrow, bone, fat and semen. The branches of tree are 8: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence and ego. There are 9 gates in this body: the 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 genital and 1 rectum. And there are 10 kinds of internal air passing within the body: prana, apana, udana, vyana and samana. So Prabhupada is explaining all of this in detail. You will see this city of 9 gates, it's also very graphically explained by Narada Muni's instructions to King Prachina Barhi. You will see in Bhagavatam also that section. Prabhupada here gives a beautiful summary of all of them. This is page 30. The 2 birds seated in this tree, as explained above, are the living entity and the localized supreme personality of Godhead, Paramatma. So this is the experience which Jivatma is actually going through, tasting 2 types of fruits, happiness and distress, which has 4 different types of tastes: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And then Prabhupada then goes on to explain in detail about how anything that we actually do in this world, it is actually in mode of ignorance only, but it is covered by mode of goodness and passion, little bit mixed. But otherwise, all the work that we actually do, they are done in mode of ignorance only, if it is a fruitive work, except devotional service. And then Prabhupada says how this body is having so many different senses: jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, mind, intelligence, ego, and made of the different elements: panchabhuta, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and how there are 7 layers that are covering the soul in this body, how there are 10 different types of air. So Prabhupada is actually explaining each one of this, and Prabhupada finally concludes the 2 birds seated on the tree are, one is Jivatma and the other is Paramatma. The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality, this is page 31, the Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the 3 qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. There are 6 types of avatars that's given. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this in detail. Purushavatar, Gunavatar, Leelavatar, Shakti Aveshavatar, Manvantar Avatar and Yuga Avatar. So Purushavatar is the 3 Vishnu: Karnadaksha Vishnu or Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Shirodaksha Vishnu. Gunavatar is what we are reading here. Gunavatars are 3: Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. So Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma passion, and Lord Shiva ignorance. Vishnu takes charge of the mode of goodness, Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains this manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. Maintaining is the most toughest bit. It has to be done in mode of goodness. We cannot actually maintain anything in mode of passion or ignorance. It's not possible. Goodness means it takes time to establish anything. It takes patience, it takes enthusiasm. We study all these different qualities that are favorable for our Krishna consciousness. All of this, of course, one and only Vishnu can do that. So Vishnu does that. That's how he is maintaining. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved in its subtle form as his energy, it rests within his body. So we'll continue with these beautiful prayers of the demigods next week. Thank you so much for your kind attention. We'll continue with this nectar of Krishna book, which is manifestation of Lord Krishna himself. This is how we associate with Krishna. This is how we understand his Krishna. We know that Krishna is the Lord, Supreme Lord. Knowing is one thing, but understanding we get by doing devotional service. Bhaktya mamba vijanati, Krishna says that. So let us understand Krishna more deeper by delving more in this wonderful gift of Srila Prabhupada to this whole world. We'll see you next week. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Devotees in Mayapur TV, YouTube and Facebook ki jai. Krishna book ki jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bo.